Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for our latest webinar, Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central for Manufacturing. My name is Gareth Boyle, the Senior Marketing Executive for Microsoft here at Fusion5, and I'm joined today by General Manager for ERP, Lisa Nix, with 30 years of experience within the ERP space, Practice Manager for Business Central, Mayan Pather, with 20 years of experience in the ERP space, and Karen Blake, Solution Architect for Business Central, with 22 years of experience in the ERP space. During the session today, we will be providing you with a short background on Fusion5 and an introduction to Business Central, followed by a live demonstration showcasing the creation of manufacturing demand, an overview of manufactured inventory items, bill of material and routing, and the manufacturing process. Before I hand over to our first speaker, just a few bits of housekeeping. We'll hold a short Q&A at the end of the presentation, so if you do have any questions, please feel free to submit them via the top right-hand corner of your browser or Teams application. In addition, the session will also be recorded and we'll share it with you after the presentation has concluded. So without further ado, let's kick things off with our first speaker, Lisa Nix. Lisa.
Thanks very much, Gareth, and welcome everybody. Just to give you an introduction of who's the organisation talking to today. So Fusion5 has been around close to 20 years, and this is what we do. Our bread and butter is putting in business applications to organisations. And as you can see, even from the introduction of some of the team talking to today, we have a very strong calibre of experience around ERP and very much designed around manufacturing organisations as well. So our focus is putting in business applications to organisations across different solutions, making sure that we help them get the most out of the solution, sweating the asset, looking at the innovation they're going to have. We're solution architects, so we drive a lot of integration. We'll bring in the right partner solution sets to make sure that we end up with the right match of the end-to-end solution. So we solution with different add-ons and extensions as well as making sure that we can keep everything going, turn the lights on, right through to managed services. So from account management to delivery to customer engagement, and making sure that we have fantastic customer success across our 1,000 customers, across our 9 locations across Australia and New Zealand. And just from a sizing perspective, obviously we're sort of 600 employees and growing continuously. Next. So when it comes to our Dynamics team, we're really proud of the fact that we've gone from the last 5-6 years of supporting Microsoft to being one of the absolute leading Microsoft practices in New Zealand. So our team is over 220 strong, and these consultants come from functional consultants, they're finance people, they're supply chain people, they're manufacturing people. So there's a lot of skill set within our team. Obviously that's supported by our CTOs and transformation consultants, as well as dedicated project managers and the sales and account management team. So there's a lot of people of depth of experience to make to show that we've got, we're not just a team of sort of, a few consultants supporting you on this journey. And we're really pleased that with the workload that we've been doing since 2016 is that we've always had the accolades, we've always had the support from Microsoft to say that we are a gold certified partner, and that we receive the nominations from Microsoft to say that we're doing the right things. And the most critical one, a couple of critical ones that we really like to showcase is that in 2021, last year, we were dedicated to being the Microsoft Partner of the Year. What was important about our submission when we went into that was that partner award was based on particular outcomes of project work that we had done for our customers, that because of our customer engagement and the transformation of the business for our customers, we were awarded that Microsoft Partner of the Year. Additional to that, you can see the top right-hand circle, the inner circle, 2017 2022. This is a very privileged inner circle that only 0.1% of all partners worldwide are in this Microsoft inner circle. And our country manager for Microsoft across New Zealand and our country manager for Microsoft in Australia just recently travelled to the inner circle, and we were part of that inner quorum, sitting down with Microsoft at the table and looking at their strategies and roadmap, and we were able to bring that back to our customers and talk about what's happening around some of the directions and some of the conversations that our customers are looking at having. So just really good that we've really connected in with Microsoft, and really proud of our relationship in there. That's all I wanted to say from the introduction to Fusion 5, and I'd like to hand over to Mayan.
Thanks, Lisa. Just before Karen gets into the demo, I just wanted to give a view in terms of how Business Central sits in the Microsoft business applications ecosystem, and give you a view in terms of some of the modules that is within Business Central. So first up, I think this view gives you a holistic look at all the business applications that is offered by Microsoft. Specifically, if we look at the top layer, the Dynamics 365 platform, it's the Microsoft cloud offering to their customers. On the far right, you'll see the Business Central icon. That's where it sits. So Business Central is focused and geared towards the mid-market sector. But along this line of applications, you'll see there's several other ERP applications like finance and supply chain. There's customer service and sales, and there's some other modular solutions like commerce and marketing and product insights. And Business Central has the ability now to couple with these solutions, except for finance and supply chain, and then you can build out a much broader ERP, customer engagement, project management solution. On the second level, we look at the Office 365, the various Microsoft Outlook, your SharePoint, your Teams, the connection to LinkedIn, the Power Platform that Microsoft has recently brought out for low-code apps, as well as on your right-hand side, the Dataverse that allows connection to third-party apps or and the non-Microsoft solutions. You can see there's a SAP in here, and that's where it has grown. In the bottom layer, we have Azure. So on this service that is offered by Microsoft, you can use services like the cognitive services, speech, there's AI, machine learning, and so forth. So in this picture, it gives a view of all the solutions that customers can build together and connect the solutions. So for customers that's wanting a Microsoft-only platform, you can connect all these solutions and build out your digital ecosystem. And for those that want a mixture of solutions between Microsoft and other software vendors, you have the Dataverse in which you can connect to. But as we get onto the Business Central solution, so in the center here, we have the core modules from financial management, your sales, your supply chain, reporting, operations, and project management. The key part in here, what I wanted to quickly just highlight, it's the Business Central interoperability between the other solutions we have, like within Excel, Outlook. So if you take Excel, for instance, the import-export facility is super easy, but the new feature that is brought in is that you could work in Excel and publish data directly into Business Central. And that's for users that are more comfortable working in Excel. I think that's a very cool feature. You look at Outlook with the Business Central connector, where users do not have to move out of Outlook, but can actually perform your sales and your procurement functions. On your right-hand side, we've got like Power BI, or from the Power Platform. You could actually build your Power BI dashboard and embed it into Business Central, again, creating that single view or that single application experience. And in the bottom here, I just want to quickly speak about is third-party apps and ISVs. So Microsoft has put out their app source site where users and of Business Central can search for any app that has been built to mitigate any gap in the product. And there's absolutely tons of solutions that you can look in there. Just going a little bit more into the Business Central solution. So on your left-hand side is all the core capabilities with some of the sub-modules on the right-hand side. And for today's session, we're going to look at operations management, where you have your manufacturing, your production planning, forecasting, and warehouse management. I think because there's a lot of content to get through, I'm going to hand over and stop sharing and hand over to Karen to take you through the demo.
Thank you, Mayan. I'll just share my screen. So what we're looking at here is Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. We're currently sitting on the Role Center homepage for a manufacturing manager, which has got all of the quick links and actions and tiles that are related to doing the job as a manufacturing manager. The first thing we're going to do, or the first thing that we need to do in order to produce something from a manufactured item, is we need to create some demand for that manufactured item. The easiest way to do that is to create a sales order. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a sales order for one of our manufactured items for my customer, a datum. We can come in here, we can put in a requested delivery date for that particular item, which will dictate when that's actually going to be planned as part of the production schedule. If I come down to the line items here, I can quickly look up my line items and I can select the auto drip coffee filter. We are processing today as a coffee machine manufacturer in our demo data, so it should be fairly easy for everyone to follow. If I come in here and enter the quantity of 10 against that particular item, I'm automatically alerted to the fact that I don't have that quantity available in this specific location. That's telling me that I'm creating a demand for an item that I don't currently have within stock. So once I've created that sales order, I can leave that sitting there as part of the demand for my manufactured item. There are a couple of different ways to get demand into Business Central for your manufactured items and for items that you might just resell as well. We can also do a demand forecast. I have a demand forecast sitting here for my coffee machines, and I've got a demand in there for the Auto Drip Light coffee machine with different variants attached to it. I've predicted that I'm going to have a demand for 50, 30 and 30 in April 2022. And I could actually populate that out throughout the whole year. And I could run my manufacturing process off the back of this. The other thing that we need in order to be able to create our manufactured items is, of course, the items themselves. So we'll just spend a little bit of time going through those. Over on the left-hand side here, I've got some saved views to restrict to the items that we're going to be talking about today. So if I go in and have a look at my SPSCM, that's restricted to all of those individual items that I've currently got on manufacture. If I go in and I have a look at my AirPot, I'm presented with the item card. I can do things such as add pictures to these particular items. I can select particular item category codes assigned to them as well. I can have different units of measure as well assigned to those. From a quick look at this particular screen, I can see quickly what's on inventory. I can drill down into that and I can see what location that inventory is currently sitting at. I can also have things such as replenishment options. Now, this is really important when it comes to manufacturing items. We've got a replenishment system of production order. Our other options are to have a replenishment of purchase or assembly, but we'll be sticking with production order mainly for today. But for the raw material components, they are entered in as a replenishment system of purchase. Over on the right-hand side, I can have different manufacturing policies, whether I make it to stock or whether I make it to order. So depending on what planning parameters or how I want to deal with this item, it's completely up to me. All of the items can be different. You might have some that you make to stock and others that you make to order. That is perfectly acceptable within Business Central. I've also got a production BOM and a production routing assigned to this particular item. If I go in here and have a look at that production BOM, I can edit that production BOM from here and I can see what components make up that particular produced item. You can see here that I've got a quantity per, so I can dictate how many of each particular item I need in this overall bill of materials. We'll have a look at creating a new bill of materials shortly. I can also have a routing attached to this particular item. So if I go in here and have a look at the routing that I've got attached, it's actually working through my different work centers and my machine centers. I can have standard setup times and run times. I can even have wait and move times. I can also have things such as fixed scrap quantities or scrap factors. If I want to, I can also do things with concurrent capacities as well. So this is a fairly standard sort of routing that I've got attached to this particular item number. What I can also do is have a look at the planning options that I've got for this item. So for example, on this particular one, my reordering policy is lot for lot. And I've got a safety stock quantity in there of 150. I can come in and I can put in things such as safety lead times, which will all dictate when the manufacturing process is going to be kicked off. What I can also do within here, part of the bill of materials, is calculate my production standard cost. So based on all of the items that I've got as components on my bill of materials, I can roll up and calculate my production standard cost at all levels or just the top level. We can have sub-assembly BOMs related to particular products. That is perfectly okay as well. One of the other items that I wanted to show you was the different option of the one that we've just created the sales order for, which was the auto drip coffee filter. If I go in and I have a look at this one and I have a look at the replenishment and the planning options for it, you'll notice that my reordering policy is order and my manufacturing policy is make to order. So I'm only going to create this product when I've got an order to do so. The flushing method that I can assign to my different options can be backward, manual, forward, pick and forward, or pick and backwards. So depending on how I consume my inventory throughout the production cycle, I can have the different flushing methods assigned to that. One of the other items that I wanted to show you here was the auto drip light. So if we go in and have a look at this one, this is the one that has got the demand forecast entered for it. And if I go in and have a look at my items within here, I've got my different variants associated with this particular item. So it comes in a color of black, red, and white. I can also have individual bills of material for those individual variants on this particular product. If I go in and have a look at the black one, you'll notice that there's no specific routing number or production BOM number. It will get that from the master item itself. If I flick through to my red one, you'll notice that I've now got a production BOM number of red, which includes red paint, and I've now got a production BOM of white for the white variant, which includes the white paint. So we can have different production BOMs at that stock keeping unit level by different variants of that particular item. We can also have sub-assemblies, as I mentioned before. If I go to one of my other views, it's going to show me a list of all of my components, and you'll see here that I've got one for a reservoir assembly. That is a sub-BOM of my completed products, and you'll see here that it's got a production BOM number. From this list, I don't need to go through the inventory card to view the BOM. I can view it directly from this list simply by drilling down. What I can also do is have a look at the assembly and production options here and have a look at where that is used. So if I wanted to know where this component is actually in other BOMs, I can look at the where used function and I can easily see which coffee machines this reservoir is associated with. You'll see there that I've got the different 4 options. When we're talking about things such as parts, I've got my housing for the air pot here. If I go in and have a look at that, you'll notice that the replenishment system that I've got here is for purchase, and I've got a vendor number assigned to it, a vendor item number, and a purchasing unit of measure. So I am planning this one based on a purchasing component rather than a manufactured component. What we're going to do now is create a new bill of materials. So if I go into my items and go into my restricted list here, my airpot light here doesn't currently have a production BOM or a routing number, so we're going to create one. This is a relatively new item and we can get to creating that in a couple of different ways. We can go through our product design and our production BOM, or I could also use my quick actions over here to create a new production BOM as well. So if I click on the production BOM here and I click on new, it comes up with a new window for me to create that bill of materials. If I start entering in a code for that bill of materials, which is for my SP SCM 1008, which is my airpot light, I can then choose the unit of measure code that I'm producing those in. In this case, it is pieces, and the status of the BOM when I'm creating it will always be new. What I can do though is, because this BOM is very similar to one of my other bill of materials that I already have, I can choose to copy a BOM. So I'm choosing to copy from the airpot itself for the airpot light version. The only thing different in this BOM from the airpot itself is it doesn't have a warming plate. I can delete that line and there I've got my bill of materials created for my new item. What I can also do here is create different versions of the BOM. So if I go and I'm just going to certify that particular BOM, which means it's now ready for use. I can also create different versions of this bill of materials as well. So for example, if I've got a second version coming out shortly, I can come in here and create that when my unit of measure code of pieces. Not sure what my typo was there, with the status of new, and I can also enter a start date. So if I don't want this new version to be in use straight away, I can have a starting date for this new version of the BOM. I can choose to copy the BOM from the production BOM that's currently sitting there, and the only difference that I want to make for this version 2 is that I am not going to have an on-off light. So I can come in here and I can delete that line. I can then certify this version of the BOM to pick up when that date kicks in. So now that I've created the new BOM and I've created the new version, I can go and attach that to my item. But I still don't have a routing for this particular bill of materials. So I'm going to create a new routing in here, and I'm going to call that SPSCM 1008 for this particular routing, and I am going to put in that it's for the airport light. I can have a type of serial or parallel depending on how I'm actually running my capacities, and it's going to be created with a status of new. When it comes down to the operations, I can come in here and I can enter the operation number, which is going to be the order in which this is executed. I've got a type of work center, or I can have a type of machine center. So depending on how I've got my capacities set up, I'm choosing a work center of the assembly department, and I'm going to put in some setup time of 20, and I'm going to put in some run time, say, of 15 minutes. My second operation, I can then come and add that as well, which is an additional work center, and I'm going to choose the packing department because after it's assembled, I need to pack this up. The setup time for that is 30 minutes and the run time is 5 minutes. Again, you can see here how I can enter in those particular fields. I can then certify that particular routing for use, and I can go and attach it back to my airport light. So if I go back to my items and back to my list here, I go to my airport light and I can come in here and I can now add that particular routing number, and I can now add that particular BOM to this item. So I've created a bill of materials and a routing number to add to my new particular item here. What I can also do within here, at the moment there is no cost associated with this particular product, so I can come in here to my bill of materials as I did before and calculate my production unit, my production standard cost, and once I've done that, you'll notice that the standard cost is now populated with the unit cost as well, based on the particular bill of materials and routings that I had. The next thing that I'm going to do is create some production orders. So there's a couple of different ways that I can do this. I can create that through a worksheet through my planning worksheets, or I can create them manually. I'm going to start with creating them through the planning worksheets. So if I go into the planning worksheets and select my default worksheet here, I've got the option to prepare and calculate a regenerative plan. So if I click on calculate a regenerative plan, I've got the option to calculate both my MPS, my master production schedule, and my MRP, which will calculate all of the additional components that I might need to purchase for it. I'm just going to create this for my MPS at the moment. I can select to use a particular forecast, which is the forecast that I showed in the demand planning earlier, and I can choose to exclude a forecast before a certain date. So if I've got any backlog, I wouldn't be going back and making it for prior months, but I can exclude a forecast from a particular area, from a particular date onwards, sorry. I can also filter on items, so I'm filtering on my coffee machine type items for this one. I can also filter by location. So if you've got multiple locations created and you're manufacturing across multiple locations, you can run this demand planning. You can run these planning worksheets by those specific locations. If I click on OK, it will go and calculate which production orders I should be creating. So you'll see here that there's one that's come in for original due date and the due date of the 28th of the 4th. That's the one that's come in from my particular sales order. I'll see that the type of order that it wants to create is a production order, and I've also got my additional 3 here, which are the ones that are coming in from my demand forecast. It's as simple as going in here from what it's proposed and accepting the action messages, and then from here I can carry out those action messages. What it will then do is go and create the production orders. I've got an option to create them as planned, firm planned, planned and print, or I can copy to a requisition worksheet. In this particular case, I'm going to create them as firm planned. You'll see here if I had any assembled items or purchase orders or transfer orders on this sheet, I can go and create those at the same time as well. I'm just going to do the purchase orders separately for the purposes of this demonstration. Once I go OK, it will go out and carry out those actions, and it will create my firm planned production orders. You'll now see if I go back to my Role Centre homepage, I've got an increased number of firm planned production orders of 4. If I drill down on that, I can go in and look at my production orders that have been created. I can also go in and have a look at the operations and what is sitting there in the production order queue with the different start dates and times. I can expand on these windows to have a look a little bit more detail as well. It's showing me the different work centres that these particular production orders will need to go through. The other option that I've got is to create a production order manually. So if I come in here, I can default to the next number. I can then choose a source type of item. So the item that I'm going to create one for here is the SP-SCM 009 for the airpot, and I can come in here and I can put in a quantity. So say I put in a quantity of 10. I can then process and refresh the production order, and I want it to calculate all of these different line items. I can have a select scheduling direction of forward or back. I will leave it as backwardly scheduled for this particular demonstration. I can calculate the lines, the routings, and the component need as well, and what status is that I want to create it as, and the number that it's going to be created as well. Once I've done that, it will populate the line item details with the quantity, the unit cost and the cost amount, and you'll see here that that's come through from the quantity up above here. It's got a start date and time of the 25th of the 3rd and an ending date of time of the 31st of the 3rd. That is to have it ready by the due date of the 1st of the 4th, 2022. If I come in here and I change that particular quantity to 50, so I increase the particular quantity and I refresh my production order again, it will then change the start date to a relative start date and time to enable me to produce to that additional capacity. We can also come down and manually manipulate the schedule as well and change the starting date time, and it will work out the ending date time based on the different parameters that I've got within there as well. Once we've got a few of our production orders in progress, what we can also do is have a look at some of the reports or some of the queries that I can then show. So for example, I've got a graphical scheduler. This is one of the products that's available from the ISVs that Mayan mentioned, available via AppSource. This is a free extension to Business Central. It gives me a nice graphical view of what's going on in my different departments. If I click on a particular production order, it will show me the route that it's going to be taking through that particular department. If I click on one of the other ones, you'll see here that it shows me that it goes from the assembly department directly into the packing department, which is what we saw on the details before. What I can also do within here is change my default view. So if I wanted to, I can change the text and the background colors where there's different filters or different statuses on different items. So all of these are sitting in firm planned at the moment, which is why we're getting a particular color coming through and we're getting them all color coded the same. However, if I've got anything that's late, it will show in red and silver. If I've got things that are released, it will show in white and dark blue. So we'll come back and we'll have a quick look at that once I've released some of the production orders. If I want to, I can also have a look specifically at my work centre loading. So if I go in here to my capacities and to my work centres, I've got a list of all of my work centres. We can have different capacities assigned to those. We can also have different shop calendars as well. So depending on whether it's 1 shift or 2 shifts, how we're actually manufacturing and how we're working within our manufacturing plant. If I drill down on the assembly department, I can come in here and have a look at the load that's currently sitting on there, and you'll notice in April I've got an allocated quantity of 370 sitting against that. If I drill down on that, it will show me those particular setups and run times that I've got associated with the production orders that I've just created. So I can come in and have a look at the load at any particular time on any of the work centres. This is the same information that is showing in the production order routings queue. All of the information that I've got there or shown graphically can also be shown in the list format. I can also have a look at some reports. So for example, I wanted to have a look at a shortage list for my production order. I can come in here and have a look at production order shortage list, and I can do a preview of that particular report. It will then show me what I've got on hand and what I actually will have on hand after production. So you see here there's a whole lot of components that we need to purchase to be able to fulfill these production orders. I can also have a look at my capacity reports as well and my inventory availability plan. I can have a look at it for a particular start date and a particular month, and that will also show me different information about what inventory I'm going to have available after I've generated those particular production orders and pushed them through to released. It's going through all of my item numbers at the moment, including my purchased item numbers as well. So I can have a look here and have a look at what's sitting on inventory on the different dates. I can have a look at the gross requirements. I can have a look at the scheduled receipts. If I scroll down a little bit past my standard inventory items to my manufactured items, I can see here that for the housing for the airport, I've got a gross requirement of 50, but on inventory, I've only got 10. So it's showing me that I need another 40 of those to be able to fulfill my existing production orders. So if we're talking about the components that we need to process or we need to purchase for a particular item, we can do those via worksheets. I could have done them as planning worksheets and combined them, but I'm showing them as a separate requisition process at this particular moment. Most of the time, your purchasing and your manufacturing departments will work closely together. However, it's typically someone different that's responsible for the manufacturing component as opposed to the purchasing component. So if I come in here and I process and I calculate my plan, I can calculate my starting date and my end date, whether I want to use a forecast associated with that as well. And I can exclude the forecast before a certain date, similarly to what I could do when I was doing the other plan as well. I've filtered on my SP item numbers, so all of the items that are associated with the coffee machines. It will go off and calculate the regenerative plan for me. It will work out exactly what components I need to buy, when I need to buy them, and when their due dates are. You'll notice that it automatically populates with the vendor number and the vendor item number, and the replenishment system over here is purchase as opposed to production order. So I'm happy with what it's suggested here for me to purchase, so I'm just going to go and carry out that action message. Once I've carried out that action message, it will go and create the purchase order for me for that particular supplier, and we'll go in and we'll receive that purchase order. So if I just go in here and have a look at the particular purchase order that was just created for our vendor raw materials supplier, I go into my open purchase orders, and it's the last one on the list given it was just created, and it's being populated with all of those items on there. What I'm going to do for the purposes of this demonstration is I'm just going to receive and invoice this purchase order, so I've got all of the components ready and available for my production orders. What I need to do is enter a vendor invoice number because I'm going to post this as a receipt and an invoice. If you were going through warehouse manufacturing processes, you would have that come in potentially as a receipt and an additional invoice to match against that at a later date. But for the purposes of demonstration, we'll receive and invoice those at the same time. So I've gone in and received all of my components that I need on my particular production orders. The next thing that I'm going to do is we're going to process some of those production orders. First, we'll have a quick look at the posted purchase invoice that I've got there, and that all looks good. That's all come through. So you'll notice that I've got several firm planned production orders sitting here. So if I go into my firm planned production orders, I've got one sitting here for the auto drip filter. I'm going to drill down on that one at the moment and have a look at the production order card that's been created. This is the one that has come off based on my particular sales order that was entered right at the start of the presentation. You'll notice that I've got things like the due date has come through, the source type of item, and it's for the item for the auto drip. We can go in and we can have a look at the line item components of this particular production order. So I can come in here and I can see my routing. So if I go in and drill down on that, it will show me the different routing steps that this production order needs to go through. I can come in and I can have a look at my components, which is all of the components that make up the particular bill of materials associated with this particular item. I can also come in and have a look at my reservation entries. So if I click on line and reservation entries, it will show me that this is reserved for a particular sales order. I can drill down on that sales order and I can show the document that's created that particular demand directly from the production order itself. If I'm happy with this production order, I can then go and decide that I want to release this production order to production. I can come in here and I can change its status to released, and that will go and release that production order ready to be produced. Once I've created that and I've created it as released, it will pop over into my release production order queue, and I can go in there and I can see that readily. If I want to, I can also change the status of those particular production orders en masse, so I don't need to do them one by one. I can come in here and have a look at my different statuses. I can also do simulated production orders if I'm testing out a design. But I'm going to select my firm plan, which are all of my items that I've currently got sitting on firm plan production orders, and I can choose to select more. I can come in here and I can mark all of those, go to process and change status, and I can release all of those en masse. So I don't need to do them on an individual basis. I can do them as a group together once I'm happy with what I've got. If I come back to my Roll Center homepage, you'll now see that I've got 5 release production orders sitting there. If I go into the release production orders and I select the one for auto drip, I can have different options here with my production journal. So if I go into line and my production journal, I can come in here and I can see what components and what consumption and output that I need to record for this particular item. I've got my flushing method filter of manual because these are the ones that I'm going to flush manually based on the consumption quality in the production journal. If I select all methods here, you'll see that I've got some that were backwardly flushed as well. So as soon as this production order was brought in, it's gone and taken out those particular consumption quantities, and it's left me with just the manual ones to record here. I can come in and I can record what consumption it took for me. I can also record things such as my setup time and my run time. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say my setup time was 20 and my run time was 150. For my body assembly. I could do these in different parts, so I might be doing the body assembly first and then posting that production order, which would then allow for me to come back in and do the electrical wiring and the packing at a later date. I'm going to go through all of these at the moment. So let's say our electrical wiring was a setup time of 20 and a run time of 180 minutes. And I can also come in here and I can do the packing. So we had a setup time of 10 and a run time of 80. I've got my different output quantities here, so I might have a scrap quantity or something like that associated with it, but for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just going to leave the output quantity at 10. I can then come in and I can post this particular production journal, which is going to record the consumption and the output of the production journal itself. It's asking me whether I want to post those journal lines. It's as simple as saying yes, and that will record the consumption and the output against this particular production order. Now that I've finished this production order, I can come in and I can change its status to finish. So if I go on to process and change status and change it to finish, I can include the posting date for it to be finished on, and I can also elect to update the unit cost at that particular time. So if I want to incorporate any of the time or costs that I've got against the work centres and the machine centres and the cost value of the components, I can choose to do that at the same time as finishing that production order. And similarly to how we changed the status of the production orders from firm plan to release, we could do that en masse as well. Once I've finished my production orders, they are still available for me to go and view. So if I go to my production orders up here and my finished production orders, you'll see that I've got a whole lot that have already been processed, and I've got one here for the auto drip, which was the one that I just did. So if I drill down on this, we can go in and have a look at the order statistics. So I can come in here and say the standard cost of the item, or the material cost and the capacity cost was there, and I've got the total cost. The minutes, or the expected cost for the minutes, was 460 and the actual cost was 460 as well. I can drill down on those and I can see what the different capacities were that I entered within there. And if I have a look at the actual cost, I can go in and have a look and see what it was that I actually posted against it. It's showing me the different quantities, or the time that I took to actually process this particular order, and it's associated a direct cost with the work centre that I had set up there to default. What I can also go in and have a look at are the related entries in relation to this order. I can come in here and I can have a look at the item ledger entries. If I go in here, I can see the different consumption and the different outputs that I had, and all of those different items that were consumed as part of creating this particular this particular production order. If I go in and I have a look at find entries, it's going to show me all of the entries associated with this particular production order. You'll see here that I've got the production order itself. I've got all of the related general ledger entries. So if I drill down on that, it will show me all of the different components that have been posted to the general ledger based on the consumption and the output of this particular production order. I can also come in here and have a look at the capacity ledger entries and the direct costs associated with that. So it's really easy to come back in and find what it is that you've actually done with any of the production orders. So now that we've gone through all of that, I'm open to any questions that we might have for manufacturing for Business Central.
Thanks heaps for that, Karen. That was really good. I'll just go through our questions. If our presenters just want to turn their cameras on for this and mine, I'll just get you to share the Q&A slide for me there as well, please, mate. Okay. So I might pick on you first, Karen, seeing you're still there. So I've got here a question. So if there are a lot of items to be processed for production reports, can the reports be scheduled to run to prevent delay while the report runs? Let me know if you need me to read that out again there, please.
No, all of the reports within Business Central can be scheduled. They can be previewed at any time, but they can be scheduled and pop up into a report inbox on your Role Centre homepage.
Beautiful. And all the steps here where orders, runs are changing status, can this be automated using scanners or similar, taking the manual status change away from the user? And sorry, mine, if you can just share your slide deck for me as well there, please, mate.
Sure.
Sorry, Karen, did you catch that question there?
So can we actually use things such as scanners to record the consumption and the output of the production order itself instead of manually going in and recording the time? We can do that with add-on extensions to Business Central. So there are a few options for add-ons for warehouse scanning that we use regularly with Business Central. One of those is Tasklet Factory. The other one is InsightWorks Warehouse Insights or Shop Floor Insights. Shop Floor Insights allows you to scan in those particular consumptions and the outputs, and also record time against the particular operations within Business Central.
Thanks, Karen. And if any of our attendees want further information on this, please feel free to reach out as well to any of your presenters you've seen today. Just a question, I might give this one to Mayan there. So is there a limit on users for business size for BC when you would then recommend a full finance and operations implementation?
No, there isn't a limit to user size for either user or number of companies. but the consideration is because it's a hosted environment, there would be a requirement to understand what server sizing or storage requirements would be needed if you're going into companies that would have a large number of users, large volumes of transactions, large number of stock items and things like that. So there is a tiering when you go past the standard production environment that's available, but that's based on certain storage requirements.
Thanks, Mine. So I might actually give this one to Lisa. So do you guys offer any training for Power Platform? We've recently been looking at building some things in-house, but not really sure if we have the capabilities.
Oh, great question. So as I said at the beginning, we've got a very strong Microsoft Dynamics practice, and obviously today's conversation has been around specifically for Business Central, but we do everything end to end for Microsoft. So we do the Microsoft Business Central and the Finance and Operations solution set, and we do the Microsoft Customer Engagement solution set, which includes extending your Microsoft BC to field service, sales and marketing, and outside of the core Dynamics applications, we do everything for your Power Platform, for your Power BI, for your Azure infrastructure support. So the answer to that question is yes. So absolutely, we do help people with extending the application around Power Apps and around Power BI, and also setting up the modern workplace around Teams and everything to do with the productivity of Microsoft. We also actually do the app in a day and the dashboard in a day training on behalf of Microsoft, and so we're constantly running those training sessions and have people available. And there's something like 170 people turn up to those training sessions that we run. So yeah, happy to support additional training.
Thanks heaps for that, Lisa. And just Karen, circling back to you there, can we create new manufacturing policies or limited to just the two that you've presented today?
I'm not sure what's meant by manufacturing policies.
Forgive me, we might have to circle back to that if we don't have the context at the moment. But if you just want to give us a little more context in that Q&A session, we can circle back to you on that one. So I've got maybe one final one for Mayan here. So we're still using NAV. What are the real key differences between that and Business Central, and why would I change? A nice curly one for you there, Mayan.
Yeah, so I think the first thing that companies should consider is that there's going to be end of life in terms of support for Navision, and and extended support. So that will be the first reason that I would think why you would move. The second part is that you would be moving to a purely cloud environment. So it's a software as a service. Your entire server environment is now taken care of by Microsoft, and you have the use just to use the application. So for Business Central, the other reasons I think you would look at is you could access Business Central anywhere and everywhere. So you could either be at a cafe with your laptop, you could be on your phone, you don't have to be in the office, and especially with COVID now, the reasons are even more real, that working from anywhere is important for most organizations. The other differences, I think from a Business Central perspective, the ability to connect now natively to other third-party solutions, like in the recent release from Microsoft this year, there's a standard connector to Shopify. And there's a lot of those type of innovations and enhancement that is coming to the product, which if you remained on Navision, those would have to be custom built. So there's a lot of investment from Microsoft in growing this product. And I think the last one to close out on, I think everybody's moving to an environment where you don't want to have a CapEx environment in investing into software technology, and Business Central now sits in that space where it's software as a service. It's gone into a CapEx model, and you're not spending large amount of monies for an evolving technology.
Thanks, Mayan. So I've just got a couple more here, one from Roy. So regarding the tiering mentioned, could you quantify it roughly? I mean, what's considered a large number of items and or orders? So I'll give that to Karen if that's okay, but anyone else feel free to jump in.
I think the tiering was actually mentioned by Mayan in terms of production database
Sorry,
sizes.
go for it, Mayan.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you could have like 1,000 items that has less information, like, and you could still be on the standard. I think it's 80 gig, if I'm not mistaken, right now. That's offered in terms of the environment. But you could have, like, for example, in manufacturing, where you wanted to have in pics of items and more attachments, then the storage requirement can increase. So there's no hard and fast rule of thumb in terms of saying if you've got 10,000 stock items, you're going to go into the next tier of Azure storage. There's an array of criteria. You look at the number of transactions. So you can have a lot of stock items, but you can have at least number of sales and procurement transactions. So there's many parts to that to determine with. But for a lot of the companies that we have implemented, nobody has purchased more storage at the point of an implementation. It's generally probably 2-3 years down the line when they look at exceeding the standard storage available.
Thanks, Mayan. And I've just got one final question here that I think I might be able to field. So do we have any cheat sheets on licensing and pricing for each module, specifically CRM service, production and menu, looking to formulate a cost per user? So we actually do have a range of pricing available on our website that I will be happy to share, as well as a recording of this session today. But I'll send everyone a link out to that, and you can check it out yourselves. If you'd like some more in-depth information on it, please feel free to reach out to us, and we can give you as much as you need there. So I'll just see if we have any other questions trickling through. Yep, that's cool. Okay, cool. We are all good to go. I'm sure everyone would love to have 7 minutes back. Before I wrap up, I just want to thank our presenters for today. I know everyone's put a lot of work into getting this live over the last couple of weeks, so it is very much appreciated. Other than that, we will share a recording of this session with our attendees and those who couldn't make it, so just look out for your emails. And as I mentioned before, if you do have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to any of your presenters directly or get in contact via the Fusion5 website. Other than that, have a lovely rest of your day, and thank you very much for your attendance today. Take care, everyone. Cheers.